Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday the 13th in the Riv, and it is going to be a day today. We've got a lot to talk about, so fasten your seat belts. Here we go. Okay, CJ, to you.
Well, where do you want to start? Do we want to start with the mayor taking it in the face again, or do we want to get into where the mayor violated the law again? Because he says he follows the law, but he always violates it. So I don't know what that's about. But it's very interesting to see. I think we should get right off the bat the mayor taking it in the face again. The Herald News won its bid in court to get the John Perry documents. And the judge made it clear in the decision that they expect a motion from the plaintiffs to have the city pay the legal fees. So once again, the judge is telling the city, stay out of my courtroom. You people never follow the law. This is ridiculous. And Alan Rumsey was defending the city, so of course we knew that was a loser. I'm
That's
telling
it.
you, this is just ridiculous. I did request the John Perry documents this morning from the city clerk. I'm wondering if I'm going to get another letter saying the document doesn't exist. But, they've got a court order to provide them, and I'm sure the courts have the documents already. So they can't say they don't exist. So we'll find out. We'll find out.
Well, yeah, you're right. Listen, again, Paul Coogan will not be transparent about anything. We'll never know what happened with Malone completely. And people keep saying that we don't we attack people. Well, I'm going to give the Herald News credit. It took them 16 months, I believe. Yeah, I believe that it says here after 16 months to get public records, and that's the key, public records. We have a right to know. A government and government officials swear an oath to be accountable to us at all times, to be our substitutes and agents. Paul Coogan has never done that. Whether it's sending something that's already been duly voted on back to the council because he can't take no for an answer, or doing what we're going to talk about later, putting in writing his illegal letter that was attempting to negotiate and coerce the council into doing something because he didn't like the way the arbitration went. So this is the real Paul Coogan. This is the Paul Coogan who, when he doesn't get his way, tells you to go jump in the Taunton River. If you're saying something he doesn't like, he says, shut up, you live in public housing. Go buy a house if you want to talk about this. Or don't talk to me about your bullet holes. Everybody doesn't have a bullet hole. This man is ignores the law. He's fundamentally the king of a criminal empire here to make everybody, all his friends, rich. That's the reality. And this, again, I will remind everybody about a Boston judge many years ago who made the statement, I'm sick and tired of seeing Fall River in my courtroom because they never obey the law. Now, this judge said exactly the same thing. And now he's going to make them, but not them. They're not going to make runaway Rumsey. They're not going to make cover up corrupt Paul pay the bill. We're going to pay the bill. We're going to pay that bill. And I can't wait for the details to come out because this isn't the only thing they've covered up. We got Malone. There's the guy that did the oil changes, and everybody knew it. There's the head of secure. What happened to all these things? The attempted molestations, the fist fights that we have on video. All these things there was never a word uttered from our school committee or Paul Coogan. He's been in that venue for his whole life, and he never, ever releases anything about anything. So one of his first platforms or promises or guarantees was, I'm going to be transparent. So decide for yourself if he's transparent, because he's not. And the other one was he's honest. And the next subject we're going to show that he has absolutely violated the law. So with that, CJ, we can wrap up this John Perry thing, and we can move on to something that is obviously very personal to me.
Well, I know that you know more about it than anyone else, and obviously you know more about it than the mayor does. And we have the documents available to be shown on the air. So I want to first say that I requested this letter from the city clerk under the Public Records Act, and I will read you verbatim the response I got from this letter. Please be advised that there are no records responsive to your request, as there was no letter or messages to the City Council dated October 10th, 2023 from the mayor or from the mayor's office. I trust that this response sufficiently satisfies and concludes your public records request. Please note that you have the right to seek redress through the administrative process provided by the superior supervisor of public records. And here was my response to that, which you know is not going to be a good thing. Allison, attached you will find the letter that you have stated does not exist. I have forwarded this to the Secretary of State for violation of the Public Records Act. Obviously, you were misinformed. I therefore request that the Secretary of State's office please sanction the mayor and the keeper of the records for violations of the Public Records Act. Sincerely, CJ Ferry. Then I received a letter from Michael Manning at the Secretary of State's office asking me, can you please advise if you are seeking to file an appeal with the division? If so, can you please provide the basis of what specifically you are appealing, taking issues with regarding response to the request? C 950 CMR 32-08 sub 1. Best Michael Manning. My answer was the city/mayor said that no such document existed, yet I received the document from a source. The city has violated the open records law as they willingly and deliberately misrepresent the availability of the documents from the mayor. It is a common practice of the city of Fall River to deny, no answer, and blatantly lie when it comes to public records requests. The city has stated, as you can see below, that they state no such records document exists, which is in error, as I provided a copy of the document requested to them to prove existence. Please sanction the city of Fall River, the mayor, and the keeper of the records. Thank you, CJ Ferry. So this is now starting again, and this is why court cases are necessary to get public records, because the city does not want to honor the Public Records Act. And I know for a fact that there are people, and we know one, Nelson, who have requested public records and have waited months for responses, instead of waiting the 10 business days and turning around and filing an appeal with the Secretary of State. This happens regularly. And this is why the city of Fall River took it in the face with the lawsuit that the Herald News and Gannett Publishing brought against them. And that ruling now serves as a ruling and as a case law for them to follow suit with. Now, maybe we can get the Malone documents if we really wanted them, but I don't see what good it would do now. It's kind of late. but they would show that Paul is corrupt. Just like I'm sure that this John Perry is going to show someone's corrupt in city politics, and John knows where the bodies are buried, so we may find that out as well.
Well, CJ, well done on the appeal. We will be doing something to the Attorney General, I believe. Uh, and but again, this basically shows the lack of transparency and the total corruption of this mayor. And by the way, we not only have the letter, if you want to watch the city council meeting, if you have, make sure you bring plenty of Pepto-Bismol. But if you want to watch the city council meeting, when Nelson Vasquez gets up to speak, you will see a picture. You will see Sean Kadim open the letter that does not exist and read it. And that letter was marked confidential, don't share with anybody, because the mayor again was trying to backdoor something, and when he knowingly violated the law. There you go. There it is for you people. And that's the letter. And it's a little too small for me. You can see the confidential, don't share, keep it a secret, the check's in the mail. Yeah, that's what he did. He's trying to cover up the fact that he was violating the law. Okay? And not only did he violate the law, grossly violate the law, he showed his disrespect for not only Fall River firefighters, but all firefighters. So let me break this down. CJ will indulge me because he knows I've done this many times and I know about this.
The floor is yours.
This is my wheelhouse. I went to arbitration twice against this city and won both. The police went and lost. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, it's a fact. But that shows that this process doesn't guarantee victory. What it does is, it's a statutory, and I'll repeat that, statutory, a legal mechanism that has to be abided by both parties to settle impasses. And if you want to look it up, it's Chapter 150E. The mayor knowingly went to the arbitration process, which is he has to by law, didn't like the outcome, and decided to try to coerce the council into possibly not funding this contract, and he included a whole bunch of statistics that they presented to the arbitrator. But the arbitrator said, okay, you presented your side, firefighters presented their side, and I've made a decision. And the law says that decision is the end of the story. The city council, by statute, is not the negotiating arm. And I will tell you, so you people that are going to try to spin this, you can't spin reality because you just saw the letter. Now I'm going to read you the opening of the firefighters' collective bargaining agreement, and probably every city union's contract, because it's boilerplate. This agreement is made by and between the city of Fall River, hereinafter referred to as the employer, and Local 1314, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO, hereinafter referred to as the union. Whereas Local 1314 has been recognized as the collective bargaining representative for all uniformed firefighters of the Fall River Fire Department except the chief. Okay, number one. That's who the negotiations are between. The executive branch, the city of Fall River, and the firefighters. And the firefighters followed the law, followed the statute. And they bargained. They got to an impasse, then they went to mediation, then they went to arbitration. The arbitrator ruled. Paul Coogan now didn't like the outcome, so he's going to complain. But again, I'll show you another violation of Paul. I don't give a shit about the law. This is part of the grievance procedure in a contract. Any adjustments of a grievance reached in any step of the grievance procedure, or, get ready for this one, Paul, I hope you're watching, and if your chief of staff is, write it down. I'll say it slowly. Or the award of an arbitrator, or the award of an arbitrator shall be final and binding on the parties. What did you do, you scumbag? You sent that letter and tried to hide it and try to tell the council about runs and how many calls they get, which you presented to the arbitrator to try to do what? Say that because the firefighters in Fall River on that reporting period made less runs than the New Bedford firefighters? Well, guess what? The last time I had an arbitration, I'll give you the statistics I had. Fall River at that time had 528 arson fires during that reporting period. And you know what New Bedford had? 21. Does that mean New Bedford firefighters are worth less? Does that mean police officers are worth less in communities that don't make as many runs? You piece of garbage who never got a real job, a guy who never taught a day in a classroom yet became a vice principal. We know you did it, Durfee. I forgot the name of the thing, but you babysat people who got thrown out of class. You didn't teach. You never taught a damn day in a classroom. You got a job because you were connected. You got a vice principalship because you were connected, and you never earned anything in your life. And I'm going to tell you something. And you and a council, because I'm going to write a letter to the editor. I would go to the next council meeting, but I will be at a conference for the retirement board because I represent the retirees in the city of Fall River. And I have to go to that conference because we need as much information as we can to protect ourselves from people like you. Because I'm going to tell you something maybe you don't understand. Every police officer, every corrections officer, and every firefighter has to go into a situation where everybody else can stay outside. They don't have a choice. CO's got to go into a prison riot, put their life on the line. Police officers got to go out every day. And it doesn't matter what kind of call. You can do everything right as a police officer, a CO, or a firefighter and still die. And I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say it for you and for the council. You and your, New Bedford made so many runs. The police department had more calls. I don't care. You know why? The arbitrator made his decision. It's the law. And you know how many calls it takes to die in a line of duty? One! That's how many times it takes to die. And that's what these men face every day when they go to work. You disrespected my profession. I marched behind 5 caskets of Fall River firefighters who died in the line of duty. And scumbag politicians like you were walking right alongside of me 5 minutes after they tried to screw me out of a pay raise. If you think I don't have any respect for you, you're damn right I don't. You violated the law, and the city council better rip those letters up and not consider them, because we're going to file a complaint with the Attorney General. You have been malfeasant as the mayor of this city. You're crooked, you're corrupt, and this proves it beyond a shadow of a doubt. CJ, I think I've said what I want to say for right now, so you can take it over. I think I was pretty clear. And if you need the damn contract, call the firefighters union. And by the way, I'm going to wrap this up. Firefighters hasn't commented yet because they follow the law. And just as the police went to arbitration and lost and had to take it, firefighters are not going to comment on this until the process is complete. The process is complete when the award comes down. When the award comes down. And when the award comes down, I hope that if you try to make another deal, say, I'm sorry. They're going to approve it. Don't sue me. Don't file an unfair labor practice. They should. Because they follow the rules. And I know for a fact that the president of the Firefighters Union has gone on record as saying, we will live by whatever decision the arbitrator made. Because unlike you, they follow the rules and they answer the call. And they put their life on the line every day, and the disrespect you showed is inconceivable. And if you think I take it personally, you're damn right I do. Back to you, CJ.
What's very interesting is the fact that, and I'm never going to question you on your interpretation or your knowledge of the law on this, because you've done it for so many years, you had to know it. And so you don't question an expert. But I have to question an idiot. All right? And the idiot is Paul Coogan and his staff. Because this is what happens. This is what happens. Now, from what what I think the letter insinuates, what it's trying to get across to the city council is, do not vote to fund this award. That's what I'm taking from it. Do not fund this award because we can't afford it. Again, we can't afford it. But as we heard already from Mr. X, okay, this ought to infuriate the people with this bombshell. Yeah, it should. And of course, Mr. X said, I thought we're a financially strong city. Paul, you're full of shit. And now you have been exposed even more with the letter. See, this is what happens. This is what happens. Paul, you had a debate last night. And to be honest, I firmly believe you received the questions because you've already intimidated Keith Tebow once and BCC once by saying you won't fund them the money they're entitled to if they didn't take us off the air. So they took us off the air. But guess what? We're still here. And I believe, because I don't believe you can function in a debate without having the questions beforehand. And the way you had all that data in front of you, which I believe was in error, and so do many other people, because again, we know. You turned around and said we only had 40-something or 30-something shots fired. We had 56 plus shots fired. 56. That's not shots going down. That's shots going up. 56. You're saying crime's going down because the police are wearing body cameras now. It cost the city an 18% pay raise to have them wear body cameras. You justified it by saying we can't keep police because our pay wasn't high enough. And that may be true, and I'm not denying that the police department deserves an 18% pay raise. But if the fire department's seeking the same thing, then guess what? You should be giving it to them. But we told you when you presented that contract to the city council that it was not sustainable. There was no way the city was going to be able to pay for that. And your financial genius turned around, Bridget, and said, well, we're going to look forward to future investments that may be viable. So, don't say that crime is going down in Fall River because it isn't, and you know it isn't. Don't say that Fall River is financially stable because you know it isn't. There's only $18 million left in the ARPA funds, and you want to spend it on Lewiston Street. $18 million could go and fix the Bank Street Armory. And by renting that facility out, we could raise the money to maintain that building. But no, your developer friends want that building. And I want to know how much of a kickback you might be getting. Are you getting a kickback? Are you being paid off by these developers, by these bankers? I got to question it. I have to question it because there's no way that you would do that. Because it seems that every time you don't get your way, you go for a second bite at the apple. You did it with the Bank Street Armory, which was illegal. You're probably going to try to do it again with the arbitration. Well, you tried with the arbitration by sending a letter to the city council in violation of 150E, and that's the law. That's what happens. You don't care about the law. You keep saying, I'm transparent. I follow the law, but I've yet to find a law you follow, except when it benefits you, like when you stuck the budget up the asses of the city council and the people of Fall River because it wasn't decided in the amount of time you wanted it to be decided on. This is what happens to Fall River when the people don't vote, when the people don't hold their politicians accountable. Okay? Cougars.
Oh, okay. CJ, did you stop? Okay.
Yes,
Listen,
I did.
and I know you told, look, I showed you the contract that says it's binding, but I'm gonna just give you another one. It's the law. This is an opinion. What he did was illegal. Now, I reached out to a friend of mine who was one of the most prominent labor attorneys in the state of Massachusetts and actually in the nation. He's given seminars on the legalities of public sector things for decades. I sent him a copy of the letter, and this is his response to me. This is a subtle, not so subtle, which means that it's subtle in some places and not so subtle, attempt to undermine the arbitration process and, if revealed, which it has been revealed, we just revealed it again, okay, would be the basis of an unfair labor complaint as well as a lawsuit against the city. I don't know if he is stupid or just arrogant, or maybe both, which is a lethal combination. And it is lethal to the people of Fall River. And then he called me to see if I got it, and he said, and also he's attempting to get two bites of the apple, just like he does with everything, just like he did with the Armory. This is not a case of opinion. He violated the law when he sent that letter. And by divulging elements within the collective bargaining process, he violated the law again. Because what you put on a table is what you put on a table. The only thing that matters in collective bargaining or arbitrations is the final result. It's like when you go to bargain. Everybody knows when you go to bargain, you want 5, you ask for 8. The city offers you 4 when they'll give you 5. And at some point in time through the process, you end up with a final result. And that final result is then brought to the city council, who is not a bargaining agent. The mayor does not bargain with the city council about collective bargaining. He bargains with what it says in the contract, the unions. And this is the only job the city council has, not to see those things. Just look at the final package. That's why he said, I can't talk about it after the award comes down. He can't talk about it before the award comes down, dimwit. Because this is Chapter 150E, Section 7. Okay? And I won't read the whole thing because it talks about blah, 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 blah. But this is it. Um, that upon the completion of the execution of a collective bargaining agreement, that the city shall submit to the appropriate legislative body, that's the city council, within 30 days after the date which the agreement is executed by the parties, a request for an appropriation necessary to fund the cost items contained therein. That's what it says. And that's all you're supposed to do. But then again, you don't abide by that law anyway, because this goes on to say it's supposed to be fully funded. Yet you allowed your CFO to tell the city council that one of the funding sources was some investments we're looking at down the road. If that got taken to court, and you're lucky I didn't hit that 1.7 billion. I wish I did. That contract is not funded. And when we get to the end of that contract, the police department's going to be in a lot of problems, and the city's going to be in a lot of funding it. And as CJ said, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. Because, look, I'm sorry, maybe because I was a firefighter, I don't think you can pay police officers, firefighters, corrections officers, people who have to go into buildings and prisons and things when everybody else is running out. People who go to work every morning, leave their families at home with the reality in their mind that they may not come home. And I've seen it 5 times in my tenure on that job, in 38 years of fighting fires. I also had coffee with Paul Bernard on his first day when he transferred from the Flint station to Candace as a lieutenant. I worked with him as a firefighter. I helped him study for lieutenant while I was studying for captain. We had a cup of coffee. We talked. I went home and I went to a meeting. And when I got back from that meeting, there were no cell phones then. He died at Roma Chemical about an hour and a half or 2 hours after we had a cup of coffee at Candace Station. And he died in that fire. So I know the realities of what these people face, and the police officers face, and corrections officers face. And for somebody like you to write something like that, to imply that they don't deserve every penny that they get, shows your lack of character and your lack of empathy for every family who ever lost anybody. And I'll turn it back over to you, CJ.
Well, Chip, I've got to say, and I'm gonna, I want to keep you on the screen for this one because I want you to give me feedback on it at the same time. When I read that letter, my feeling, my interpretation, the insinuation in the letter was, if the city council doesn't shoot down or vote down the funding of the new police contract, which I doubt that they'll ever do, but you never know, that the mayor is going to have to lay off fire, police, and EMS. And that's a lot to say in such small pieces of a letter. And that's exactly what was happening, in my opinion. He was threatening to lay people off. And I remember, because he brought up the last night in the debate, the $10 trash fee that Sam assessed. But Sam assessed the $10 trash fee, and he has said this over and over again, to maintain police and fire. And I'm sure if the people of Fall River had known that then, they wouldn't have complained so much. But Paul's not saying that to the people of Fall River. He's saying to the city council, don't fund this contract. And that's a big thing to say.
No, you're right, CJ. Listen, as the attorney, a very prominent attorney said, that's why he called him fundamentally either stupid or arrogant or both. Because that's exactly what it was. It was a sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle attempt to get them to reverse a decision of a duly executed arbitrator's award. And I will tell you that that is illegal, and I am going to tell you what we know. We know that Sean Kadim opened that letter. We have the letter. And now this is something I cannot, I saw him opening the letter. I watched the council meeting and I saw him open the letter. We also know that that letter exists. But it has been told to us, and I'm not going to say that this is actually the way it got there, but it was told to me, and I don't know if you got the same thing as we do. I have our sources, obviously. It was handed to Laura Washington, Joe Camara, and then through one of the clerks to Laura Washington to distribute to the city council. Does it surprise me that Laura Washington was the agent of Paul Coogan? No. But what disturbs me is Joe Camara starting the meeting saying nobody's been intimidated, there's been no pressure on anybody when he had that letter in his hand. And I know he knew it was in that letter. And I know that Alan Rumsey looked at that letter because Paul Coogan couldn't write that on the best day he ever lived. He looked at that letter, and as an attorney, he violated his canon of ethics because he knows that's illegal, and if he doesn't, he should turn in his law license. So this shows the corrupt, that this administration is rotten to the core. Rotten to the core. And it needs to be replaced, as do all those bobbleheads that are protecting Coogan, like Brad Kilby. Oh, got upset when Linda Pereira objected. Well, guess what? Then he apologized. He goes, disingenuous apology. All he's ever been is a bobblehead for every mayor that's ever been in it. And he doesn't care how much of our money we spend, going all the way back to when this city was nearly broke, and he voted to spend $1 million on fields that are now new fields. All we ever do is keep throwing good money after bad. This city is run by a corrupt mayor, and this city is rotten to the core. Worse than it's ever been. And believe me, I've seen some real bad administrations. I have never in my life seen anything like this. And for him, like I said, to disparage directly, indirectly, subtly, not so subtly, the sacrifice that every public safety officer makes just speaks to his lack of integrity and character. And with that, back to you.
Well, I want to say something right off the bat before all of a sudden we start getting letters and emails saying that we're wrong. It is alleged that Laura Washington handed out those letters. We don't have absolute proof. We didn't see it on camera. We didn't see it on tape. But that is what is alleged. So it may be wrong. It may be right. We've been told from several people that she handed it out, but it could have been Lauren, who's the city council secretary, who handed it out, and they mixed them up or something. But I don't know how you can mix up an idiot with a secretary who has a background in the city clerk's office. So it's just very interesting. You're right about the disrespect. You're right about the intimidation. And we can't have that in Fall River government anymore. We can't have it. And the fact that people only support him because Well, my son had him in school and he was a nice guy. My daughter had him in school and he was a nice guy, is not a reason to elect him mayor. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's listening to people who know what they want, not what the city wants. And that's the truth.
Okay, CJ, in keeping with our standard procedure, which we were never given credit for, that we correct anything that we are informed from a credible source that's incorrect, be their numbers or anything else. I have just received a text from a credible source that Laura Washington did not hand out those letters. Someone else did.
And that's why I said alleged.
And I said alleged too. I said we can definitely attest to the fact that this letter exists because we have it. We can definitely attest it, even though our officer of city clerk said it didn't exist, which they have to answer for too. They tried to not tell the truth. We tell you the truth. Every law I stated is the law. You can look it up. You can look at these collective bargaining agreements. You can look at everything. The only part of this puzzle, we didn't know who passed them out, and maybe we never will, unless we go to court for 16 months and try to get somebody to admit it. Because in this city, you never get a straight story. But we do know that those letters were handed out, and they do exist, and they are a violation of the law. So thank you for informing us. I appreciate it, and we have corrected that. And even though I'm not particularly fond of Laura Washington, I'm not going to accuse her of anything that I don't think is that she was responsible for. So, and that's the way it is. She did not hand it, so now we have a mystery. Maybe at some point in time, when all this thing shakes out, someone in the council will say, well, so-and-so handed me the letter, or so-and-so handed Kadeem the letter and he passed them down or something. But that's irrelevant. It's not who gave it to them, but I'm sure it wouldn't have been given to somebody who was not a Coogan supporter. They wouldn't have given it to somebody, to disseminate. But the reality is that's irrelevant. What is relevant is the letter. An illegal attempt to undermine a statutory arbitration procedure, and to do it in a just despicable way. So with that, CJ, I will turn it over to you again.
And this is why we are the way we are. I mean, as soon as we get the information and we know that it's wrong, we correct it. And that's what we did. And that's why we said alleged. And I'm sorry if Laura Washington feels attacked, but guess what, Laura? You attacked us. You did it first. And the Supreme Judicial Court already ruled that I can call you anything I want as long as you're an elected official. So once you're out of office in January, then we'll worry about it. And yes, I believe you'll be out of office because you weren't elected this time, and I don't think you're going to be elected next time. And that's my personal belief. And when our case is filed in court and you're named as a defendant, and you will be named as a defendant, the city can't bail you out. The city can't pay for your legal fees, and the city won't pay the judgments. So know that. As you've been able to tell by the comments that have been popped up all morning on this show, okay, people cannot stand what this administration and what this city council is doing. We knew that there was intimidation. We just knew it. We heard it from too many people. And Joe had to come out and say, "Oh no, I never received any communication from the mayor to try to intimidate me into voting for this." There was no intimidation, but Leo Pelletier showed up only for one vote, and then he walked out of the building. He showed up to meet with Alan Macomba, and then he walked out of the building after he took his vote. Pamela Liberté LeBeau has got nothing to lose because she's not running. So she doesn't care where it goes. And she voted for it. Now, is there a conflict there? Is she going to be representing the Bank Street Armory when it's apartments? She's a real estate person. Maybe she shouldn't have voted at all. Maybe she should have abstained from the vote. That's an opportunity. Maybe she needs to look at that before the next city council meeting. And the people don't want market rate housing in that building. But Paul does. And that's why Paul didn't like the first decision. And so he's going to resubmit it. And if it comes back again where it's no, he's going to resubmit it again. And he'll keep resubmitting it until the city council does what he wants, what he orders them to do, like they always do. Because they're so far up his ass that when he farts, they blow up.
All right, she did. But I will tell you what Joe Camara is going to say. When we say he was lying, he's going to say, I said that we didn't get anything to intimidate us about the armory. And this letter was about an arbitration. But it is still a letter that says he implied that they never were coerced or never leveraged at all. And that is an absolute lie. And we know it. So the reality is, listen, this is a, I've never seen, and look, I've been doing this a very, very long time. I was a president of the union for 24 years. I went to arbitrate, went to the JLMC twice. I processed hundreds and hundreds of grievances. I have never seen a mayor do something like this after a duly processed arbitration. Never. Statewide, too. And when I was a president, I knew the president of every union that had a fire department, which is virtually every city and town in the state of Massachusetts. I've never seen anybody just have a giant shit on a collective bargaining law and give them a giant middle finger. This, like I said, it shows the character of the individual. The real Paul Coogan is not Mr. Pass Out the Masks and have movies. Paul Coogan is the Mr. Go Jump in the Taunton River if you don't like it. You live in public housing, so you don't have a right to speak. You're some kind of subhuman. Go buy a house if you want to talk. All his friends. Oh, move out. You don't like it, move out. That the anointed savior of the homeless and stuff. He doesn't have one empathetic bone in his body. He has lived off the public dole his whole life, and he's never earned anything in his life, and it shows in his attitude.
It's interesting because, again, look at what Jeffrey's saying. Go back to Cumberland. Go drop off the river. I'll buy a house if you want to keep it. For the less fortunate. We'll never forget those words that he says. And let's remember about Paul. He jumps out of his car on Plymouth Avenue to attack a woman. And then he says, oh, I did that because they were putting children in danger. Oh, so when Durfee does it to raise money, when the young Marines do it to raise money, when the Little League teams do it to raise money, are you going to jump out of the car and scream at the adults that are there saying, you're putting these kids in danger? You can't have it both ways, Paul. You can't have it both ways. And that's the problem. You want it your way or no way. It's my way or the highway. And we see that all the time with you, Paul. All the time. And you pick on things, but for one word, okay? And I'm going to give you those one words. Okay? Like when you turned around and told the Fall River Reporter that there are no new migrants in Fall River. But according to the state, we have 71 families, which you would know because the city school department receives $104 a day for each child that's put into the school system. So we may not have any new migrants, but let me ask you, what do you classify as new? If they were here yesterday, they're not new. If they were here a month ago, they're not new. Nobody in Fall River knew that we had 71 families. And how many more are we getting? Because Paul says, come to Fall River. We love everybody. We'll take you here. Martha's Vineyard said the same thing, but as soon as they could, they got them out of Martha's Vineyard. Fairhaven doesn't want them. Taunton doesn't want them. You want to make Fall River a tourist community, yet we have one hotel, and now there are 71 families living in that hotel. That's got to be at least 71 rooms. How many rooms does that hotel have? 100? 200? I don't think it has 200, but it probably has at least 100 rooms. So we have 29 rooms left. How are we going to have tourists? I know that when the Little League teams start having competitions in Somerset, the hotels in Somerset, Swansea, Fall River, they book up solid. And there's no rooms to be found anywhere. Sometimes they're going to go as far as Seacount to get a room. But how are we going to become a tourist community? You say that people are moving to Fall River to live in our market rate housing because of what we have to offer. What do we have to offer? We don't have anything to offer. You turn around and say you're doing things for children. You're putting together Nights in the Park, which is put up by FRAC. You've got programs for arts and music down at the Narrows, which is run by your friend, Patrick Norton, who's served on committees and receives money from you. You said you put together a basketball league that's in the park. The park board hasn't even heard it or approved it yet. And you dictate to the park board what they're supposed to do. That's why you illegally removed 2 park board members. That's why you tell them what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. That park board has nothing but a mic attached to their ass. So when they open their mouth, Paul Coogan speaks. This is what's happened to Fall River. There is no representation of the people. There's only representation of Paul Coogan.
Well,
How do you think I feel?
I guess we've, I guess we've kind of laid it on a line today, and I just want to close by saying, you know, he doesn't respect our people, and a pay raise doesn't show that respect. It's just something that I believe they all earn what they do. So to everybody, I want everybody to be safe, obviously, especially in what we see going on in the world today. But to our public safety officers, be safe, and you should not be used in this manner to be pitted against each other. And you also should not be the first people put on the chopping block when people who can't stop spending money like Paul Coogan want to look for a 2.5 override and threaten to cut public safety. And that is the problem. There's no respect for what they do. So someday, I would love to drag you into a burning building. And with that, I'll let you close.
Hey, you better be careful. They may consider that a threat. Hey, you know, it's sad that we have to do this, and it's sad that we have to. We spent almost an hour showing you how fake, how much of a liar Paul Coogan and his administration is, how much of a liar his staff can be to protect the mayor. And it's a shame that Sam Sutter didn't attack him with that letter or attack him on the Herald News article, but maybe he's going to do it today at Channel 10 because he's having a debate on Channel 10, which will air on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday at 5:30 in the morning, Sunday at 11:30 in the morning. Watch that debate, see what happens. And I don't think Paul got the questions for that debate. Okay? I do believe that Paul got the questions for this one. And if not, Keith, get a hold of me and tell me that you didn't give him the questions. Not that I'll believe you, but that's the way that is. I want to thank you for watching today. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great day.